Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
It sucks, Drew.
Okay.
It sucks. Yeah, the Lions lost. This is not a Victory Tuesday, so I'm not doing as well as I was 1 week ago at this moment. So a lot to process. It's a real big bummer. But other than that, it's colder than balls out here. And I don't like the cold. I love the snow, hate the cold. They just kind of come together. So, yeah, other than that, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm fine. I always look at the end of the season like the beginning of the thing that I'm really interested in when it comes to the NFL. So I'm pretty excited to get going on what I consider to be quote unquote my stuff.
Yeah.
So I was reviewing, I was going over how compensatory picks work, and I was looking at the Lions
You're
futures
such a nerd.
contract that they signed today, and I broke the free agents that we have coming off the roster down into their different free agency types. Yeah, so
You're such a nerd. I love it, man.
yeah, this is the thing that I enjoy the most is.
I just wish we didn't have to do this for a few more weeks, right? Like, I enjoy this as well, but I wish we could have put it off until after February 9th.
So this is, it's not the result that everyone wanted. Hey, Zako, what's up, buddy?
Yeah. Zako?
But this is the start of the process where you get back to where you just were, and you try. We're trying to win next year's Super Bowl right now.
Yep.
And so I can't wait to win a Super Bowl. I believe that this group that we have can get it done.
Yeah.
But we're, like a fine wine, you have to kind of age a little bit, Yeah. I hear that said. I don't know anything about wine. So.
Yeah. Well, as like a Red Wings fan, obviously, all the stuff behind me, the Red Wings went through the same thing, right? They were really bad. They were called the Dead Things or the Dead Wings, right? It was a really rough time for them in the 70s and 80s. They drafted Steve Yzerman. They started to build a team. And then they got really good, and they still lost. And they kind of had to, get over that hump. They had to learn how to be successful to actually get to the finish line. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm watching that with the Lions right now, where we were really bad for a long, long time. The Red Wings went 42 years without a Stanley Cup, right? Granted, we've gone longer, but that's a long time. So, and we've kind of done the same thing with the Lions. We're finally good. We're really good, and we didn't get over that hump. Set us back a little bit, and I feel like kind of the way that I did with the Red Wings in that 96, 97, 98, where they came out and just, 96, they smoked everybody, and then lost in the Western Conference Championship to the Colorado Avalanche. The next year, they came back, won the first of a back-to-back Stanley Cup. So I'm hoping the Lions are kind of in that same boat, that same path right now. So let's before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit about the divisional round, the non-Lions games. There were some really, really good ones. Kind of get your thoughts on those. Let's start with Houston, Kansas City. What were your thoughts there?
Okay, so I'll just do this real quick. Hang on. Breaking news. Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn and Commanders assistant GM Lance Newark, both of whom interviewed in person today with the Jets, have left the team's training facility per sources. Hey, Zako, you wanna? Is that a Schefter? You want to tell me who put that up, man? So, real quick, and then I'll do Houston.
Yep.
What I heard today from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport was that Aaron Glenn was supposed to interview today with the Jets, and their goal was to quote unquote not let him out of the facility. Thank you.
Yeah, without a contract.
Without a contract. That has now happened. And New Orleans is under 4 inches of snow or something, which to them might as well be 4 feet. And so they have rescheduled everything until Friday, I believe, when the weather's supposed to break. So this is going to hang over our heads probably for the rest of the week. Okay. The divisional round, Houston at Kansas City. Kansas City wins. Not a surprise. Here's the big takeaway. The refs love Kansas City. I am so unbelievably tired. I am so unbelievably tired of the NFL is rigged bullshit. I hate it. First of all,
same. If I see it, I scroll right by.
Who is the NFL? The NFL are the owners, and none of the owners are going to sign up for one of the owners to basically get like, oh yeah, no, we're just going to have the refs favor your team. No chance, dude. No chance. And if you look at like what the NFL severely punishes their players for, it's not hitting your girlfriend or having guns or drugs in your car. It's the betting stuff. It's the type of thing,
the sanctity of the game stuff.
Correct. It's the kind of thing that would destroy people's faith in the game, right? Like baseball got hurt by the shoeless Joe Jackson betting scandal in the 20s, right? And like college basketball has had point shaving. There was a referee tipping off bettors about stuff in basketball like 5 or 10 years ago or whatever. You know, like that kind of thing. Sports leagues will attack as aggressively as they attack anything else. It's just not real. What the problem is that the Chiefs are successful. The Patriots were successful. Then the Steelers were successful. And everyone hates them because when you're having success, it means that somebody else, other fan bases, are not having as much of it. And so people get vilified because they are being successful. Now, having said that, the calls in this game were complete bullshit. And so if we do not get instant replay for quarterback hits after this game at some point in the offseason, it's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty.
I think one of the things people forget is that the referees are human, right? There are 22 dudes on the field times however many 140 plays in a game. That's a lot of opportunities to miss something, to not see something. Yeah, granted, I know there's 10 refs or whatever out there, and they all kind of have their focuses. But there's a lot of movement. It's all really fast. You know, you look at and we'll talk a little bit more about it in when we cover the Lions game. But look at that hit on Goff during the pick six, right? Gets it up in the chin. There's no call. People are like, oh, it's, us against the world. Then, of course, I don't know, 20 minutes later, there's a face mask call, which wasn't a face mask. He gets him by the shoulder. Hell, I thought it was a face mask until you see it from the other angle and in slow motion. You're like, these dudes, they try. I don't believe that they are bought and paid for. I don't think there's anything rigged about it. They are human people trying to do something that is going really fast without the benefit of instant replay, being there physically in person with a million things going on at once. It's nonsense. Anytime I see something about NFL is rigged or the Vegas must have called that one in, I just roll my eyes and I am tuning that out. It is bullshit.
Last year, Mike and I hang out on Fridays pretty regularly, and afterwards we usually go out to a bar and have a meal or whatever. And last year, dude, there was, I think the Chiefs beat the Bengals in the playoffs. And there was a dude at the bar who was up from Ohio and was a Bengals fan and was like, "Nah, dude, this game is rigged. They just want Mahomes in the Super Bowl because of Taylor Swift or some shit." And I laid into the dude like it's a total fucking stranger. We were just small talking at the bar, and this guy's like, "Nah, dude, it's all rigged." And I got real upset real quick, and I was like, "Nah, dude, go back to Ohio. Shut the fuck up. That's so stupid."
Yeah.
So. Don, I gotta say, dude, I've been reading your comments in the chat. I'm loving this attitude, man. So
yeah, I mean, what's in the past is in the past, right? Let's look forward. We can't solve the past, but we can plan for the future. So the next game in the AFC was a barn burner. I mean, not like a super high scoring, 40s game or whatever, but like it was a great game between two teams with amazing quarterbacks. Unfortunately, the weather, I think, kind of tempered what you can do. Like you and I've talked about this, Drew, where in stadium, perfect conditions is the way to showcase what these athletes can do and what can be done on a football field, right?
God, awful.
But that was a great game. Buffalo wins 27-25. Baltimore comes back, drives down, in the last minute of the game or whatever, scores a touchdown, goes for the 2-point conversion to tie, and well orchestrated play until the ball ends up in Mark Andrews' stomach, like potential future Hall of Famer Mark Andrews. Like the dude has been good for a decade, and drops it, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was going on. One of the guys that I work with, one of our vendors, actually flew in from Buffalo to Kalamazoo here, and got in just in time to watch that game. And he was like, I thought they were going to march down, we're going to score, and it was just like we're going to lose it in the end kind of thing. And he was pretty obviously pretty thrilled that Andrews dropped it, but that was a great game. It's fun watching those guys.
So I'm sure Mark Andrews feels terrible, today, because like he makes that catch 99 out of 100 times. So, but this is why you play the games on Sunday, or Saturday or Thursday or whatever it is now. But like, that's the difference between really good teams is sometimes like good teams make the plays they need to when they need to make them. And it was a good game. And there's a theme to all of these games that I'll get to when we talk about the last one here. So.
Yeah, and then the third non-Lions game, I picked the Rams to win. They damn near did. I thought Stafford was going to do it right at the end. Philadelphia outlasts the Rams 28-22. Honestly, I think the Rams outplayed them for most of the game. The problem is they being Philadelphia had runs of like 3 runs over 40 yards, like big time home run things. Outside of that, they shut those guys down and played really well defensively. But those 3 touchdowns, that's 21 points. That is a 22-7 game if you make those those go away and they punt or whatever. So give it to the Eagles. They stood there. They did really well. Kept the Rams to just 22, and they got pressure right at the very end. When Stafford was going down for one of his trademark comebacks, they got a big sack that pushed him back, and then they got pressure on that final play to make him not have enough time to do the thing that he needed to do. So Eagles pull out a victory there.
If the MVP award included the playoffs, Saquon Barkley might very well be the MVP. Like this guy he had a wonderful regular season, almost record setting, to be honest. He decided he might be too humble for his own good. Like he agreed to sit out in week 18 for the 17th game of the season, had a chance to break the single season rushing record, chose to not do it. He was told not to do it, and he listened to the coaches because he didn't have a choice. But he wanted to go to break it.
If Saquon Barkley wanted to, he said it afterwards. He's like, okay, I didn't want to sit out. I wanted the record, but I also understand that that's not what we're here for. So,
in the wild card round, he goes down to kill the clock when he had a 70-yard, obviously touchdown, and then in this game, he was the difference. Like he, just took the game over with his rushing ability. And I've always really enjoyed watching great running backs, and especially like when they rack up a bunch of yards. So these playoffs have been a lot of fun for me.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, and so Zakwa hit on my I did a little foreshadowing, and Zakwa figured it out. All the teams that won in the divisional round didn't turn the ball over, and all the teams that lost turned the ball over. And you can't do
another interesting stat is every team that won was outgained by the team that lost. Yeah. Every losing team gained more yards than their winning counterpart. So I thought that was super interesting. It doesn't happen super often. Like usually if you're on the positive side of things like yardage and whatnot, you're usually winning. But turnovers are the difference maker, right?
You cannot do it. You cannot lose the turnover battle with any expectation to win. If you win losing the turnover battle, I mean, you have an angel on your shoulder.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of hill we're talking about. Sisyphus would have a tough time with that hill, So that is a reference to the guy who was cursed in Greek hell to push a boulder up to the top of a hill, and then it falls down, goes back to the bottom every single time. That's why it's hilarious. Everyone can laugh now. So Hugh laughs.
Yeah, and Brian says all four have quarterbacks that can run.
Brian, I will be touching on a similar subject later in our chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we got the other games out of the way,
real quickly,
because we really, this is a Lions show, right? Like we don't really, now that those guys are there, I don't really care. Let's talk about the Lions. Lions versus Washington. Wasn't what we wanted to see. What were your initial thoughts?
So I thought a lot about this, and I think the first thing that I'll say is like, I don't remember exactly when Goff's pick 6 was, at what point in the game. I felt like it was maybe in the second quarter. And as soon as that happened, I thought, oh God, like I was when they made it a 2-score game, I was basically like, this is going to be tough. This is going to be real tough because they had received the kick, they hadn't set the tone, they weren't pulling away, and like then the mistakes started to happen. And like the Lions have been a team all year that have overcome some mistakes, and they typically make less mistakes than their opponents do. But this isn't the time of year to test the theory.
And just as a FYI, that was at about the 5:25 mark in the second quarter, 5:25 left.
Yeah.
And they went up. They were already up 17-14, right? Like we were up 7-0, and they kicked a field goal, and then they went ahead 10-7, and they literally never looked back. And that put them up by that second score.
Yeah, so I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember doing this during the regular season, but like this is the game that it finally felt like the defense cannot keep up with what's going on the other side of the ball.
Well, especially when the other side of the ball gives them 4 more possessions. That doesn't help.
Yeah, it's never good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit on all of these awful things, but like it felt like Goff was it felt like he felt pressure almost immediately, and which is weird because
are you talking physical or mental?
Well, like it felt like when he was going back to pass, it felt like he was. It felt like to me like it seemed like he was under duress, whether he was or not.
Yeah,
like the seeing ghosts thing. Like,
yep.
And I don't know how bad that was. It didn't seem too bad, but like I was just like, boy, this doesn't feel like Goff versus the Vikings when he was so cool under pressure. And like if you look at so let's just talk about the pick 6, because if you watch the play, he gets the ball in shotgun, and then he drifts to his left. And I don't know if he felt pressure from that side. I don't remember seeing much pressure from that side, but he drifted almost into Taylor Decker. And I thought that put him in trouble. His footwork seemed like he was tapping his feet quite a lot. And he has Laporta on this throw for like 5 or 6 yards right in front of him. It's like 2nd and 14, I think. And that would put them in 3rd and 8. That's not great, but it's manageable. He goes for Patrick. The ball sails. And when the ball sails in the NFL, it's a nightmare because everyone's playing too high, everyone's behind the play. There's usually bad guys back there. And there were. And, the Commanders picked it off, ran it back for a touchdown. Goff gets absolutely chopped by Frankie Louvu on, in my opinion, this borders on dirty. Like, I don't remember who it was, Jim Harbaugh or Brett Favre or somebody, when they were playing and they threw a pick and they just get absolutely slammed to the turf. Like, Frankie Louvu is very clearly headhunting, uses the crown of the helmet and puts it right on Goff's chin. Like, first of all, Goff has to know you're not allowed to go make a play. You threw the pick, walk to the sideline. Like, do not get involved in the play. Anyways, they return it for a touchdown. Now it's what? 24-14. It's a 2-score game. And I'm thinking, oh no. Like, they've broken serve. It's at 2 possessions. Goff looks jittery. He looked upset when he's been very, very calm and collected throughout most of the season. And from that point, they just didn't play as clean a football as the Commanders. I was so impressed with Washington. They came into Detroit, into that stadium, and it fazed them not at all.
Jaden Daniels looked like a veteran.
He looks
like
awesome.
He was,
He looks straight up awesome. There's this story from the draft process last year where the Commanders brought in Daniels and Caleb Williams and Drake May, and they all took them to like some golf, like VR golf place, just to see how they interacted together as a group. And like Daniels was like the alpha of alphas. It was just like,
oh, really? Interesting.
That he was in charge. They did the same. So like the Jets did the same thing in Stafford's draft year. They brought in him and Sanchez to the, like, all the QBs that could go in round 1, and they put them together to see how they interacted with each other. So it's a strategy that's been used a couple of times in the NFL, but like, seems like they made a really good pick. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's that play.
Close your eyes if you got, I mean, this is rated R content.
Spoiler alert.
Yep. And watch. Yeah, we can't tackle because we're all offensive players. Bam, you're done. So.
Yeah, I don't think he tried to hit him helmet to helmet. It looked like he tried to hit him with the chest. I didn't think so. I think it just happened. I don't think that was intent.
He puts it on his chin.
That floated way too high.
Yeah, Tim Patrick is 6'4".
Yeah, so like if you go back and you like watch him right there, I don't know how to do slow motion. How do I do that here? Let's do playback speed 0.25. See if that does it. So like I think he was trying to hit him hard, but I don't think he was trying to helmet him.
Okay.
Again, like everything moves so fast. I don't think his goal was to do that. I think it just happened.
Really?
Similar to
everything I've ever heard about NFL defenders is that if you get a chance to hit their quarterback, you hit him. So like,
I think they tried to hit him. I don't think he tried to hurt him.
Okay.
But either way, it happened. It probably should have been a flag.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was unfortunate.
So then the Lions just never could catch up. Like the problem the Lions have, and like I don't know that, to be honest, I don't know if this changes if we have all of our defensive starters, is that like they have to now break serve. And like I don't know that they could do it. If you had Hutch and McNeil and Carlton Davis and Derek Barnes out there, maybe better chance of it at least, right? I still don't know that you can break serve. So like, can you force a turnover? Can you get a 3 and out? I mean,
I think with those starters in, I think we definitely break serve. We were a top 5 defense when we were healthy.
You're like a top 10 defense without them.
Well, the last 5 weeks we were the 32nd ranked defense each of the last 5 weeks.
By what you mentioned?
We are. I don't recall which one it was, but in those individual weeks, we were the 32nd for the last maybe it was 4 weeks. But does that surprise you? Look at what Buffalo did to us. We did end up outscoring them. Actually, we didn't. We lost that game.
Lost that game, so.
But yeah, like we got a lot of points on us. So there were some weeks that we were able to recover and do okay, but our defense was horrendous those last 4 weeks. Injuries just caught up.
Well, I mean, it wasn't horrendous against Minnesota. I mean, like, the issue the whole time has been, like, the Lions need to outscore people because the defense, all of these matchups, it's known, like, they're not going to get stops. Like,
yeah.
So if you're, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know that if you put McNeil and Hutchbeck in there, it's guaranteed that you're going to get stops in critical moments or at all, and like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like the Lions had the commanders were in the red zone. The Lions have 12 guys on the field. They don't take a timeout. That's a turnover.
Yep.
Like you're gifting them a first down, and then they
at that point was on the 2-yard line, right?
Right. So I mean, like, I think there was another series where they had it in the red zone, and they committed a penalty, and it reset the downs. And if you give someone any team in the NFL 5 tries from the 2, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it.
Yeah.
In this day and age, and so like, I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna sit here and say we lost this game because of the defense.
No.
I mean,
I don't think it was the defense.
So like, there's the pick in the end zone to when you're targeting JMO. I've heard some people say like JMO needs to be more aggressive coming back to the ball, and I'm like, can we nitpick here? I mean, like,
it was just underthrown.
If the ball is in front of JMO, he doesn't have to do that. Like, how much work do we have to put into making this not Goff's fault? Like, then of course there was at the end of the game, I think it was Luvu, but it might have been Wagner dropped into passing lane. Goff doesn't see him. We have I mean, it's a super low possession, super low chance, but like, you can't turn the ball over there. You have to score, onside kick, score again, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just not deep enough. I mean, it's just not high enough.
There's no coming back to the ball on this one.
Yeah, where's he supposed to go? Through Sarian still?
Yeah. While he's running the other way, I mean, that's not an expectation. You have to put that ball right here.
The ball has to be thrown to where the referee is.
Pretty much, right?
And Jameson can just go get it. Like,
it was 2 yards behind, 3 yards behind him. It was just a bad ball, which was, I mean, to be honest, I thought this was one of Goff's worst games. Obviously, the turnovers did not help, right? That was a bad throw. The earlier one was a bad throw. The later one was a bad throw. The fumble was not feeling pressure, not stepping up in the pocket and keeping the ball out. Like,
I'm going to blame Glasgow on that one.
I mean, sure, but there was 4 seconds after the ball was snapped, and he didn't step up into the pocket when he could have. So, like, I would put it also on him. But, like, that wasn't his strongest. And even the touchdown throw to Sam Laporta, which was a beautiful catch, by the way, was a horrendous throw. Like, he was lucky to get a hand on it, and then even luckier to pull it in. But, like, he just did not look sharp the entire game. And, obviously, like, I've never been a huge Goff fan, but he's always been, like, he's our guy. Like, I want him to be successful. This was just not one of those games that scream out, the guy can take you places, and he can, this is the guy that's going to put your team on the back and do things when it's crunch time. So hopefully next year we are a little bit better shape defensively, and we can overcome, stuff like this.
So the next mistake I think that the Lions made was they quit giving the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think and this is to me inexcusable. Jahmyr Gibbs carried the ball 14 times for 105 yards. He had a run of 33 yards. He had a 7.5 run average. And he caught the ball 6 times for 70 yards on 11 targets. So, I mean, 25 touches seems like a lot, right? Nowhere near enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Nowhere near enough. If there was an advantage that the Lions had, it was that when Jahmyr Gibbs was in the game, not when David Montgomery was in the game, when Jahmyr Gibbs was in the game, I almost call them the Redskins. The Commanders had no answer for him running the ball. If you just handed the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs, he was gashing them like he had been doing for the last month. He was just great. And I'm ready now to say next year he's the lead back. He needs to get the lion's share of touches.
Yeah.
He's too good. He's too good. He's coming into his prime. You need to use this guy. You need to use this guy a lot more. Yep. And they didn't. I don't know why. It was
because we were down by 2 scores.
I don't think it matters. I think that to the Lions this entire season, and since Ben Johnson has been the offensive coordinator of this team, they have consistently done things like running the ball in spots that you would traditionally throw the ball 3rd and long. They run the ball a ton. Yeah. And some of that's because they know they're going to go for it on 4th down. Some of it is that's just it's confusing to the defense, that kind of stuff. But they just stopped doing it. And when they stopped doing that stuff, you become predictable. They became predictable. And I think the Commanders were they just had their number. And I thought that the coaching here, I thought there were some coaching decisions that I was ooh, that's weak. That's real weak tea, guys. Not calling the timeout on the 12 men on the field. I think moving away from Jahmyr Gibbs as the offensive focal point throughout the entire game. He should have had 30 carries. And then the other thing that I'm going to call a mistake is the double end around pass that you wanted Jameson Williams to complete.
I'm mixed on that one.
Oh, I'm not. So here's my issue with that particular play call. You're asking Jameson Williams to throw a pass, right?
Sure.
He's not a quarterback. Has he played quarterback in high school? Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. It's been a long time since he has. And even if you've told Jameson Williams, look at St. Brown. If he's there, throw it. And if he's not there, throw it away. You're asking a wide receiver to go out onto the field, having not done that all year or once this year, and make that decision in a playoff game when you're down, when there's pressure. I hated it.
So the reason I'm mixed on it is because for all those reasons, I disliked it. The reasons I did like it is and you're also a little bit more averse to trick plays than I am. I don't mind trick plays. They're trick plays because the defense doesn't expect it. We're down by 10 points. At that point, we needed to score. A trick play, a gadget play, whatever you want to call it. Those are the kind of things that can score out of nowhere, get a big play, get you guys going, get back on track. I have no problem with the idea of a trick play at that time. And even that particular play, I guess, if the execution was better, obviously you always look like a genius when it works, right? And then, a dud when it doesn't. So I didn't mind that. What I'm curious about is the level of coaching that Jameson Williams got on that. How much was it reinforced? Unless the dude's wide open, if they sniffed it out a little bit, if there's a dude within 5 yards of him, just don't throw it. Just keep running it. You can still be the star of the play. Just keep running it. Did they drill that into him? Did Goff mention that in the huddle? Did he look at him and say, all right, J-Mo, this is going to be you. End around. You're going to chuck it to Laporta down the field. But I swear to God, if he's not open, you need to run. Did he reinforce that? I don't know. Maybe all of that happened, and he still made that decision to throw. A lot of quarterbacks, even young quarterbacks, would probably still have tried to make that throw as well. So like, I don't necessarily fault him for that. I don't know. It's kind of, that's why I'm mixed. Like, if it worked out, it's just yet another awesome thing that we did that made a big play, that made a difference in the game. At that point, it was kind of the nail in the coffin. Like, we weren't coming back from that one. That was our Obi-Wan Kenobi, our last best hope, right? So
don't use Star Wars in this analogy. Don't you use it against me. Here's my problem with it.
Yeah.
I think that if you wanted to gain 15 or 20 yards or however far the play was, like, you have a better chance to do that just by handing the ball to Gibbs and everyone knowing their blocking assignments. Like, that's my issue.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I feel like the Lions, when it comes to using their running game to create explosive plays, we're good at it all year. And like, I didn't see anything in this game that Washington was like, oh no, we're really tying down their running game, boys. Like, no, we figured out how to
only 9 yards to carry the second half.
I mean, like, it's that. It's like, give me 3 chances, and 2 of them are like 7 or 9 yards. Then 1 chance like this to get 20.
Yeah.
And so, like, and I mean, here's the other thing. If it's JMO on the receiving end of the trick play, I'm way more apt to agree with the play call.
Who would you be okay with throwing the ball there that wasn't Jared Goff? Because that's the definition. Well, that's the definition of the trick play. Like, if JMO's gonna be the receiver, like, who's the trick that's throwing that ball? Or are you just like straight up, I don't want a trick play?
You can run a flea flicker and it's still Jared Goff. They did the really cool, like, toss into the pitch to, which I thought was one of the coolest plays I've ever seen.
Yeah. Shovel and ladder.
Yeah. And like, you also still there's plenty of ways to make like, they did it early in the game when Bridgewater came in. By the way, I want to talk about that. Like, the Teddy Bridgewater comes in, they run a reverse to Jameson Williams for a 60-yard touchdown. Like, he's so much better when he's the focal point or drawing the attention.
He's the target, not the source, right?
And so, like, I think that they had one other play, at least during the year, where they, like, jet sweep or, like, reversed and he actually threw a touchdown pass. Or maybe
who threw it to Goff? Goff caught one. Was it St. Brown?
Yeah. So here's but like, this is a nice segue into the other thing that I think is a mistake that the Lions did, is that whether it's a trick play or never running zone or whatever it was, the Lions in this game were just like, we're gonna die by this sword. And for a group who have been as creative, as smart, as motivated in their coaching this year, I find it extremely interesting that there appears to be a complete lack of willingness to change away from, this is who we are. We're the trick play guys on offense. We're the cover one man defense on defense, and we're going to blitz you. And it doesn't matter. We'll just do that, whether or not you have found the answer for it. And Washington had the answer for it on offense all game long. And you did nothing else. You didn't pressure Jaden Daniels. You didn't force him to do anything that he didn't want to do. What you did was you put backup defensive players on islands that they weren't prepared to do. By the way, Jack Campbell breaking Amik Robertson's arm like 5 seconds into the game was
second play or something, right?
I was like, okay, really? This guy? The guy that's like the step up, like, you kind of forgot that you signed him in the offseason, but just all came in and started playing really well. Like, this is the guy that, he's out for 2 months, by the way. But like, he's out for 8 months. What are you talking about? Well, we don't play for months and months and months. But yeah, his injury is going to take 2 months to heal. So
yeah, that was the it was 2 plays into the game, and you're just like, God, another one.
Right.
And then Branch went down for a little bit. I think Kirby went out for a little bit. We were just like, we can't withstand all of that.
Yes, this felt like, whether it was the Vikings or the 49ers or all those other teams, it felt like the Lions could weather the storm, and this just felt like the storm that they couldn't weather.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer. But like,
yeah,
I want to talk about Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, he was out, injured or something. Didn't he get an injury or something in practice or something? He was inactive.
Not that I have heard. Where did you see that?
I don't recall. I will. You talk about Hendon Hooker. I'll track that down. But he was inactive, and I thought it was because he had some sort of injury or illness or something. I'll track it down. You talk.
This is very relevant to what I'm going to talk about, because I was super happy that they signed Teddy Bridgewater as an emergency backup to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I saw nothing about Hendon Hooker not being available for this game. So when I saw Teddy Bridgewater come in, and like, I'm watching the broadcast, and if I feel like if Hendon Hooker was not available, they would have been like, here comes Bridgewater. Hooker, having caught the flu or whatever, is not available.
Right.
Game. That kind of stuff. But like, so Brian says, I would trust Teddy to step into a big spot more than Hooker. Why? Like,
experience, reps.
What has Teddy Bridgewater ever done that makes you?
I mean, he's got meaningful game snaps in his history. Hooker does not.
Yeah, but like, he was also the coach of a high school football team a month ago.
I know.
So like, what are we talking about here? Like, Hendon Hooker's in the room every week getting coached and taught what they're trying to do.
So he was not injured. He was listed as designated as their emergency quarterback.
Right, which means they demoted him to that. So
yeah, essentially,
exactly what I think it is. So like, if you can bring in any fucking person to hand the ball off to a running back, which is all they had Teddy Bridgewater go back for one pass, and I'm like, really? Like, if you cannot trust Hendon Hooker to come in that spot and throw a 5-yard hook to Sam Laporta, he should not be on the roster.
Yeah. So
like, as far as I am concerned, you might as well shop Hendon Hooker, because the Lions don't trust him to be a quarterback in a real game.
Yep.
So I'm done with the kid. Hendon Hooker has no trade value. He has zero trade value. You could trade him for a 7th round pick.
Yeah, if he's not going to get in for as the backup and has to be designated as the emergency backup, I don't think there's enough value for it, right?
So Zakwa, do you mean that Dan Campbell had the wrong? Oh, so what you're okay? So Zakwa, tell me if I'm wrong here. Zakwa says, I don't know if you guys heard the Dan pregame interview, but it was very odd. Seemed like he had the wrong mindset going into that game, but I don't know if it really matters now. It does matter now, because we're trying to figure out like how to get better. And so I think whether or not that's 100, I mean, so like, I understand that Dan Campbell said it, whether or not Dan Campbell said it because it's 100% true, or Dan Campbell's just taking the heat because that's his job in that situation, I don't know. But like, either way, like, it certainly didn't look like the Lions were ready to play this game. I mean, they looked as bad as they had all season.
Yeah.
So
we had a few bright spots. Mahogany popped in, had almost 70 plays, and had a 92.2 grade. Wow. Sewell came in and was the Penei Sewell we know and love. St. Brown played well. Gibbs played well. Ragnow played well. Monty, like, we had some guys playing pretty well. Obviously, the big exception to that rule is the most important piece on the team, right?
And right above him.
Yeah, and then the guy right in front of him, which did not make this guy's job any easier. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about what we do with Graham Glasgow in the offseason at some point.
We will.
And then, compare that with like Washington. Like, they had a lot of guys, above that like 64 mark. But I mean, this is the key. Like, their best player, most important player on their offense, was their second best player on the team.
Yep.
Defensively, Branch played stellar. Campbell played really well. Like, we had some guys playing good on defense. Anwuzurike played well. Reeder played well. Amik was only in for 2 snaps, which was super bummer. But like, we had a lot of guys below that 64-ish, 65 grade that were not playing well. Kendall Vildor, I really hope we don't have to say his name at all next year. Other than, this is the list of guys that didn't come back to the squad. Herbie did not have his best game. Zadarius Smith just got no pressure. Iffy didn't play, and these are the guys that we counted on the defense side. Iffy, Zadarius Smith, Kirby Joseph, Terrion Arnold. Like, when those key guys just aren't doing the things that you need them to do, you give up 45 points in a loss.
So I'm fully expecting that Terrion Arnold will be up there with Jack Campbell next season. Depends on who the defensive coordinator is, I think. A big deal.
Yeah.
But, yep, I think that's pretty much the story. I think Amik going out was a big deal. I mean,
that might have been the biggest piece of the game, to be honest. I think that changes the defensive makeup of the game.
Yeah, I just think that there were both physical and mental, emotional tolls that were exacted by this game.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh no, like Amik went out. Amik's kind of the dude that like fires everybody up in the third quarter when you start to get tired, or, like he's always out there, giving his all. And like I can't let that guy outwork me or whatever. I'll hear it all off season and, practice or whatever. So like, I hate talking about this game because I don't feel like this is Detroit.
Yeah.
And like, I think that we will be right back to the same spot next year. I mean, because I just think that the roster is good, and I think that Dan Campbell is good, and I think Brad Holmes is good, if not great, at his job, and like I think that Sheila is great, and like everyone is disappointed right now, and they have every right to be disappointed, and the players are upset, and the media is upset. And that's going to take some time. And I think Don Burr probably said it earlier, like, by the time that March rolls around, we will have forgotten this and moved on to a mindset of, all right, we need to get better now.
Yep.
So,
yep. It's all about incremental improvements.
Yep. So like if Kevin Zeitler retires, Christian Mahogany's the right guard, and there's no question. If you re-sign Kevin Zeitler for one more year, I think you have to have an open competition for left guard, which I think that Christian Mahogany wins. And then Graham Glasgow is your designated, anybody on the offensive line gets hurt, he goes in for their spot because he can play every spot on the line.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the best case scenario is if Zeitler wants to run it back, Mahogany's in at left guard. You have, I think, a really good backup multiple spots. Moody's hurt, so like we'll see what happens with him in the offseason. Oh yeah, no, you're good, dude. But like, it's a good point from Brian.
Yeah.
Best record in franchise history, back-to-back division champions, back-to-back playoff appearances, 7 Pro Bowlers, 6 All-Pros. That all still
there are good things, right? It is a good season. It wasn't the end that we wanted. Good things happened. The first back-to-back division championship in our history. Like, that's never happened. And the Lions have been around for like 100 years. So like, these are big deals. And It hurts when you're not raising the trophy at the end of the season to go along with this. But those 7 Pro Bowlers or 6 All Pros, those dudes are under contract. Like, they're coming back next year. So there's, it hurts, but there's a lot to be proud of. This was a great season. We did some really great things. It was a fun team to watch too. I'm looking forward to next season and incremental improvements. It'll be different, right? Because coaching changes and there's going to be some player turnaround and whatnot. But I don't see why, with the core that we've got, we're not. I mean, we're going to get back to the playoffs, and I think we're going to have a run for a 3rd division title.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. I think that there will be a regression. Oh, Zakwa. You got to tell me where you're getting this information, bro. I'm all over
on X. He did on X.
So that's great news because he had maybe the best year of his career. I don't know if Donkey Kong is still with us. I hope so, because I would like to do a mock draft. But because now we know our draft pick.
26, I believe. Is that correct? 28. All right.
All right. It's you're real close. But I think that this team is poised for 5 years of success. Like, you have a core of players who are the Lions are going to re-sign Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson, they're guys that they consider to be the future, and they're going to sign those guys to contracts that are going to keep them in Detroit. And you are going to have this group of guys probably better, and I'm excited to talk about how we can make this team better in the offseason in upcoming weeks and as we go through the pre-draft process and that type of thing, and then we get a chance to see whether or not it happens. And we might be really excited about the new coordinators. And no one knew who Ben Johnson was.
Right.
And it's who? Ben who? Oh shit. So Tanner Engstrand or Scotty Montgomery might be that guy, who knows? We just don't know.
Hank Fraley.
Hank Fraley, So that's a good segue. Let's get into the coaching carousel, Mike.
Yeah. So usually we kind of start with news and notes and talk about miscellaneous things, then kind of move into games and yada yada. But I think this just flows a little bit better. So as we talk about off-season planning for the Lions, there's a lot of coaching carousel stuff going around. Outside of the Lions, really only 2 kind of big moves. Kevin O'Connor got a multi-year extension with the Minnesota Vikings to be their head coach. He's a head coach of the year candidate, so it makes complete sense to keep that dude around. Josh McDaniels is coming into New England as their offensive coordinator. Former New England coach, not head coach, but staff member is back in New England as their OC. And then a ton of Lions. There's a ton of Lions that are getting, Dan Campbell coaching tree just might be sprouting like a bush. Wham. Right? So Ben Johnson moving to Chicago as their new head coach. Aaron Glenn interviewing with New York Jets, where he used to play, and New Orleans Saints, where he used to coach. So he's looking at potentially moving away. Even Dan Campbell's if another coaching session goes around, another coaching season goes around and Aaron Glenn's not hired, he's something's wrong. He's I'll take him back. I'd love to have him back. But that dude needs to be head coaching somewhere. He's just that good. So I expect him to be gone. Campbell expects him to be gone. Who else? We've got Hank Fraley, our offensive line coach. He's interviewing with Seattle as their offensive coordinator. Terrell Williams is interviewing to be all the ticker just went away.
I'm changing something real quick.
Oh, did I misspell something?
Yes.
No.
I got
he's interviewing with New England to be their defensive coordinator. Jet Modkins interviewing with the 49ers. He's our special teams assistant coordinator. He's going to be interviewing for the 49ers special teams coordinator position. Deshae Townsend interviewing for the Niners for their defensive coordinator. Spielman interviewing for the Jets GM. Like, there's a whole bunch of Lions that might be all over the NFL next year, which is cool. It's a real bummer because obviously what they've been doing with us has been working, but it's cool for them. I'm sure this is living the dream for those guys.
Yeah. So I listened to Ben. Ben flew to Chicago today to sign his contract. Never interviewed in person.
Yeah.
Only
I think they said it was the first time that a virtual only interview turned into a hire.
So in Ben's address to the people at the Chicago Bears facility, he said that this is where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
He had his wife and kids with him. He's interviewing literally the room full of people. And he's like, this is where we wanted to be. He was very adamant about that. He sounds like a head coach.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious as to why this is where he wanted to be. Is it the history? Is it where his wife wanted to live? Is it what they are going to pay him per year? Is it a chance to coach Caleb Williams? Is it something other than those things? I want to know why Chicago, when you had the Washington job, when you had your pick of Vegas, Jacksonville this year, the opportunities that you had and interviewed for in the years past, why Chicago? Were you waiting for Chicago? Why were you waiting for Chicago? Anyways, in some ways I don't care about that because now I want to crush you. Now I want to
exactly.
I want to step on your sandcastle on the beach and just watch as you cry about it now. Like you picked the wrong fucking team to go to, man. I do not like your choice.
In division. Come on, man.
In division, that's an insult. I mean, I don't care. I mean, I like Caleb Williams fine. Am I interested to see what he's going to do with Caleb Williams? Yeah, just not 2 times a year when we have to play him.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty pissed that this is the choice. But okay.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on Aaron Glenn? Where do you think he's going to end up?
I think he'll be a Jet. Ultimately, I think he'll be a Jet. Even he's left the facility today. I don't know how long he was there. Usually these things are all day affairs. I didn't see the part said where Ben said he was glad to finally do some winning. I don't remember him saying that. It seems like my eyebrows would have gone up.
Yeah.
But
unless he meant he finally doing some winning in Detroit,
Chicago,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because Chicago hasn't had that great of a decade. But it seems like New York
decade. What are you talking about? The '85 Bears was 40 years ago, man.
That's true. But like Aaron Glenn, I still think will end up as the Jets head coach. I know he left the facility, but now this has all the earmarkings to me of I have another job interview to go to. Are you sure you don't want to pay me what I want?
Yeah.
Like I'm out of the facility now. Trying to make a joke about. Oh, that's right. He did say that. The idiot. Good. Okay, Brian, I'm with you now. Good one, buddy. But I mean, New Orleans now has a chance. Where if you'd asked me this morning, I would have said they don't have a chance. So I would still think New Orleans has a chance. I want him to get one of these 2 jobs. So I'm disappointed about Ben.
And there's a benefit to the Lions for him getting hired too, right?
So yes, there is. So the NFL sponsors a program that if a minority coaching candidate gets a head coaching job or goes into an executive role, you get draft compensation in the form of comp picks. And Mike, I was wrong. If he gets a head coaching job, we get that 3rd round pick in this upcoming class.
Oh, nice.
I double checked on that today, and I was wrong about that. I thought that comp picks were set after free agency had been finalized in the year prior, and it is for players, but not coaches. So coaches, you can get the pick in the next cycle. I was wrong about that. So there will be a benefit to Detroit in the guise of compensatory draft picks for having a minority coordinator earn a job as an NFL head coach, because the NFL wants those people to be promoted to be more representative of like who actually makes up the NFL. I'm here for it.
Yep.
So plus he's earned it. That's the other side of it. It's not like he's unworthy of becoming a head coach. Just listen to the players talk about it. He was voted the most popular coordinator level coach to play for in the entire NFL by the players.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
So,
out of curiosity, since we're still talking about Ben, you were talking about Ben, right? Or you're talking about AG, most popular.
AG.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Ben.
No.
I guess it doesn't really surprise me. Both of those guys were pretty well loved by their players. Did you happen to see St. Brown on his podcast with when he was chatting with Caleb Williams?
I've heard some clips.
All right, let's play this for the group here. Theoretically, y'all should be able to hear this when I push play. Tell me if you do or don't.
Nope.
Okay. Nope, me neither. So hold on. All right, hold on.
I can read it.
Oh, you can't hear it?
I can't hear it, no. Can you guys hear it? I would imagine no. First of all, I have been telling Chicago Bear fans on Twitter that there's no chance they're getting Ben Johnson for weeks. For weeks,
right.
I have been telling them that. Thanks, Dr. Detroit.
All right, let me try redoing it with... Oh, I wonder if I have to do it this way. All right. Which tab is it?
Is it because you're using your headphones?
No, I think it's... I might have to share the tab. All right. Now let's try this again.
Right.
Just so you know, I told Ben Caleb is
All right.
fucking trash. Like, you don't want to go there.
That's all right.
That's what I told Ben. So I don't know what he's gonna do with that information, but I told Ben, like,
Yeah, when he does the information, it's all good.
I said Caleb's a diva. He's a selfish motherfucker. He's gonna want everything on his own. Like, thinks he's the smartest guy in the world. Not coachable. So Ben, he already knows like what to do.
I'm on. He's gone. Fucking say goodbye. Let him go.
If anyone's gonna ask me how's Ben, Ben's trash. He
Terrible.
Can't call
He's the
plays.
worst. He can't lead us.
Right.
He's not tough on us. He doesn't.
Exactly.
He doesn't.
All that. Like,
He doesn't hold everybody
I don't know why
accountable.
you'd want him.
Everybody's not on the same level. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would for sure. If I would do the same thing Josh Allen did
Right. You saw
when
that.
they
Yeah.
talked about Joe Brady.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna talk so much trash about him, and then I'm gonna go back to our org and be like, pay this man some more money. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. I wasn't sure if you saw that. I cracked up when I saw that. His podcast, those are hilarious, but
I like Caleb Williams. I can't help it. I just think the guy.
yeah.
So I am kind of interested to see what the pairing is for those two because, like, first of all, I think you need GM, quarterback, and coach all in lockstep in order to make it a franchise, a winning franchise. And I think they have the quarterback, and I think they have the coach. And this is Ryan Pohl's last shot.
Yeah.
Like, if he can't make the number one overall pick at quarterback and then get the poster child for the guy that everybody in the NFL wanted as a head coach, if he can't make that work, you're done, son. You're not your job's gone. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in Detroit coaching personnel, front office personnel, Chris Spielman, Ray Agnew, obviously Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, Hank Fraley, Terrell Williams, Deshae Townsend, Jet Modkins have all had coaching interviews since the regular season entered for roles with other teams. And like, this is what being successful looks like, is that when you're successful, everybody wants a part of that success and they're going to come and they're going to poach your guys. Right. So the challenge for the Lions is who's next. Right.
Yeah.
So if we're probably losing Aaron Glenn this week, I would imagine. I'm prepared for that. And so here's
Emotionally prepared.
I'm emotionally
Yeah.
prepared for that.
Yeah.
And then, so here's my guess as to who the next guys are. Okay. I'm betting Scotty Montgomery, running backs coach, assistant head coach, is probably the offensive coordinator. I think Tanner Engstrand, the passing game coordinator, is like the sexy, popular pick. And I do think that he is part of the succession plan, but I think that he's just one layer of the succession plan. And Dan said that he was going to talk to Jared Goff, and like Jared's going to have a lot of input on who he wants his next offensive coordinator to be. So we'll just see. Like, everything I've heard about Tanner Engstrand is that he can. He is a guy that Dan Campbell can go to. Like when Ben Johnson is doing something like more important, like he can get answers from Tanner Engstrand, and it's like he and Tanner and Ben Johnson were on the same page. Like, as far as like Tanner has been last 2 years, has been in charge of like game plan concepts for the passing game. So Dan also said that he wants he doesn't want the terminology to change. He wants there to be a short learning curve. Like everything that he said points towards an internal hire. So I mean, like, I guess the question is like, who are you more comfortable losing? Are you more comfortable losing Scotty Montgomery? Or are you more comfortable losing Tanner Engstrand? And like, I think that, I don't know, but like, I would think that they are more comfortable losing Tanner than somebody like Scotty. So who's shown that he can coach at a high level, but like Tanner Engstrand seems to be like the Wunder kid who's just waiting for his chance. Right. And like, as far as the defense goes, when Aaron Glenn leaves, I think that Kelvin Shepard, the linebackers coach, is probably next in line. Fine with that. He seems to be another type of coach that everybody loves to play for, that really connects with the players. Also, the terminology will be the same. The philosophy will be the same. Small tweaks, small differences. But ultimately, I think when you watch the Lions next year, you're going to see primarily what you saw this year.
Yeah, I think Shep is going to be our DC. I'm not sure. I think Hank Fraley may actually end up being our offensive coordinator. And to be honest, he's the guy that I want around more than anybody. So if that's what it takes to keep him, let's do it. Seattle's already got their eye on him, and I wouldn't be surprised if now that Ben's officially gone and that job is officially vacant, I wouldn't be surprised if Hank is getting interviewed as we speak. Well, maybe it's 8 o'clock, maybe not as we speak, but like today, tomorrow, to fill that spot and get that continuity there.
I do not want to lose him. I do not want to lose Hank Fraley, but like, there may not be enough spots. I mean, that's the thing, is that like you can only have one offensive coordinator. I mean, you can give guys more money and you can give them new titles, but like they may not have the jobs, So like it's gonna be, I mean, that's the problem. Like when you get to be really good, like Antoine Randall is probably an offensive coordinator worthy hire, like Kelvin Shepard's a defensive coordinator worthy hire. So is Hank Fraley, so is Tanner Engstrand, so is Scotty Montgomery. I mean, you have 5 or 6 guys at a coordinator level on your coaching staff, and that's a luxury, right? Like, can we keep one of each on the staff? Like, that's the challenge. So
well, like Brian says, I think he kind of agrees with it. Hank's the single most important coach to our offense. I mean, outside of Dan, I'm assuming Campbell, but I agree. So here's the thing: when these kind of things happen, when 2 coordinators leave, a lot of times coaches, they'll bring in one from the outside and promote one from within. Very rarely do both come from within. Do you think one of those 2 might end up being an outside candidate?
I don't think there's going to be an outside candidate. I mean, like, I know that Dan said that he's not going to rule out an outside hire. Mm-hmm. And okay, I mean, like, Ben Johnson is already reportedly the leader in the clubhouse, where his DC is Dennis Allen, the former Saints head coach. So that's a guy that came from like the Saints tree. Like, he has familiarity with Dan Campbell. Like, it looks like Ben is setting up in Chicago exactly what Detroit is doing. So, I mean, as far as Hank Fraley is concerned, like, the dude's probably earned his opportunity. Like, and if you don't give it to him, like, he has I feel like the dude's got every right to leave and go get his opportunity. I don't want to see him go, but like, there's like, Hank Fraley has an assistant that might be ready to be Hank Fraley. Like, that's the thing that we don't see. Like, we're used to hearing about this level of coaching, but like, all of these guys have the junior offensive line coach or whatever, the assistant offensive line coach, who might very easily be as good as the guy that they're working for and looking for their next opportunity as well. And like, I think that in reality, you just kind of have to hope that that's true.
Yeah.
And not that you have to be like, you have to go poach another team's offensive coordinator in order to keep. I mean, you have Ragnow, Sewell, Decker on this line. I mean, like, a coach is going to help, always helps. But like that's a really hard thing to screw up too. I'm fine with her having 2 brand new play callers. One on offense, one on defense. I mean, that's cool.
So the reason why I was asking about that is because I think that our defense, like, I'd love to see Shepard get it. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'd be pretty excited about this as well. What about Robert Saleh?
No.
Like, I think he might be a pretty solid defensive coordinator position hire.
No, I don't like it.
What don't you like about him?
Just the way that he's run organizations. I mean, like, he had, like, when he was in Detroit or when he was in San Francisco, he had Nick Bosa. And like, I love Aiden Hutchinson, but he hasn't shown that he's Nick Bosa yet. I mean, like, the numbers are similar.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Nick Bosa take over games, you know, and
right.
like, I think,
but you want that for us, right? So wouldn't he be a good?
I don't think it's Robert Saleh that made Nick Bosa who Nick Bosa is.
Oh,
so
no,
I mean,
that's probably fair.
I prefer an internal hire because what I have seen on the field for me is my definition of like it working.
What I want to see, yeah.
And I want to keep that. And what I do not want is I have a question that I've been posting to like Lions media people, and it's basically like, are we going to hire coaches that coach the philosophy that we want in the building, or are we going to hire coaches that bring in a new philosophy into the building? And so if you hire from within, you're promoting the philosophy that you're doing right now. And
right.
The Lions are successful right now. And if you bring in another guy, you're taking a chance that the philosophy has to change in order to be more successful. And that's rare. Like,
yeah. And I think Dan would be pretty clear about that. Like, right. Hey, this is the thing we're doing. We think you can do this, but we're not bringing you in to do something different. We're bringing you in to do this thing the way that we generally do it. Right.
And I think
and people might not want to do that. They might want to have the autonomy to say, this is the thing that I want to bring in. And if you're bringing me, you're bringing this with me.
Yeah, that's what I don't want.
Right. And I don't think Dan will let that happen. I think he's very clear on what he wants this team to do and be. So I don't think that's going to happen. If he does have an outside hire like Saleh, I think Saleh is going to come in and do the things that Dan wants him to do instead of bringing something new.
Just to answer Zako's question directly, do I want one? Do I want 2 brand new play callers or one? I want 2. That's I don't have a choice at one. That's happening, right? Like, but I think that Aaron Glenn's earned his opportunity. I want the picks.
Yeah,
and like, give it to me.
Yeah.
Like let him do it. Like, let's give somebody like Calvin Shepard an opportunity. It could be better.
Yeah.
So
let's talk a little bit about off-season planning.
Yeah.
In the future episodes, we'll dive deeper into it. But let's kind of do the 30,000 feet for this season. We've got some dudes that are coming off a contract this year. Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport, Zeitler, Kaminsky, Mosley, Onwuzurike, Khalil Dorsey, Kendall Vildor, who, I swear to God, if you say we're going to bring him back, I'm going to cut you. Petco, Bridgewater, and Ife Melifonwu. So that's the list of 2025 free agents.
That is a third of them. I have
For Detroit?
Yeah, I have the actual list. This is a great list of people to talk about. We'll start here, but this is a third of the free agents that we have. So,
are the other ones like practice squatters and like non-players? Like, yeah, okay, yeah, these were the ones that mattered, right?
we'll talk about all of them.
All right, let's do it.
So where do you want to start, Mike?
Let's start on the defensive side of the ball because that's where we struggled the most all season, primarily due to injuries. But that's where we need the most help. So let's talk there.
Okay, so the number one player on defense whose contract's up is Carlton Davis. We traded a 3rd round pick for him last year. Came in, played pretty well, broke his jaw, out for the season. I don't think he's coming back. I've been talking to some other people who have better sources than I do because I have no sources, and and they expect Carlton Davis to be gone. So those are guesses. And when I ask why do you expect him to be gone, the answer is we think he's going to ask for too much money. We think he's going to ask for a contract like in line with like what L'Jarius Sneed got from the Titans when he was traded from the Chiefs to the Titans, which is something like $19 million a year. So I've been watching pretty closely what contract projections like NFL like sites like Over the Cap, Spot Track have, PFF, and so like PFF has a contract projection for Carlton Davis at 3-year, $14.25 million with 25 guaranteed. And if you look at what we paid him, that is right in line with what we already paid him. So if he asks for that, I think that you re-sign him. If he asks for something like $4 million a year more, you let him go. And then you move Amik to outside Rakestraw. So Ennis Rakestraw said this week that when he was coming back from his hamstring before he re-aggravated it, he was, quote unquote, in line to start outside. And I assume that meant after Carlton Davis had broken his jaw. So I think it's very possible that next year, if Davis is not retained, your starting cornerback list looks something like Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw on the outside, and Amik Robertson is still at the nickel. And then now you have baseline starters, and you can draft guys to be cornerbacks 4 through 6, and you get rid of guys like Khalil Dorsey, Kendall Vilder, Emmanuel Mosley. So I'm kind of down for that. I mean, you've already invested. Like the draft pick that you used to draft Ennis Rakestraw is a larger investment than the draft pick that you traded for Carlton Davis. Ennis Rakestraw is going to cost you $1 million or $2 million a year. Carlton Davis could cost you, let's just break it in half and call it an average, $16 million a year. Like, you have to allow some players to walk out the door. And like, I like Carlton Davis. I thought he played well for us, but like, you're going to re-sign Kirby Joseph, right? He's going to get somewhere between $18 and $22 million a year. You're going to re-sign Hutchinson to probably the largest non-quarterback contract in the history of the NFL. Like, you have to make some choices. And I have become so much closer to like the cap doesn't matter kind of a person than like you have to manage your cap. But like, I just think that they are going to prioritize their draft picks that they hit on over every other consideration. So like, you let Jonah Jackson walk out the door last year. Like, if you're going to let one guy walk out the door for $16 million a year or whatever he got paid in LA, $14 million a year, whatever it was, like, I think that a similar guy this year is, this is not Brad's guy. Brad did not invest a draft pick technically into Carlton Davis. And you have the Brad Holmes plan in place at this level. Like, you had a veteran starter, Carlton Davis. You drafted a dude, Ennis Rakestraw, to succeed him. And maybe that's a little bit accelerated because of the jaw being broke. I don't know what Brian's laughing at me at, but he's laughing at me.
No, it's probably my joke. I said one of the reasons why Ben Johnson may have chosen Chicago so he could have January's off.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. It's abhorrent to me that anybody would laugh at one of your jokes, but
hey, sometimes they're funny.
You know, but this could be.
That wasn't mine. I stole it.
You know, this could be like, you know, like a blind squirrel finds in that kind of a scenario. Who knows? But no, anyway, you're really funny. So
and handsome.
Okay, and handsome. And so, like, guys, like, funny. If this happens, I imagine we're not here for year 3 of Emmanuel Mosley not doing anything. Kendall Vilder Khalil Dorsey just have not distinguished themselves. They're beating hearts. Like, you can replace them with rookies. You should always be drafting cornerbacks anyways. That's the one position group in the NFL that you need more than anything else. Let's talk D-line. Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Levi Nwuzurike. Let's start with Nwuzurike. He's a 3 technique. You have 2 3 techniques that tore their ACLs. So there is no guarantee that McNeil or Mekhi Wingo are ready to start next season. I think you have to re-sign Levi Nwuzurike. And so PFF's projected salary for him was like 2 years, 8.5 a year, like $10 million guaranteed. So I'm here for that. Like, the dude had pressures. Like, so long as he is healthy, and he has not been healthy much, Brad doesn't seem to care about that much. He has generated pressure from the defensive tackle position. You have to have that in the modern NFL, whether he is a starter next year because of injuries and NFI and that kind of thing, or, you know, he's just put himself on that level. Hey, Pat.
What's up, Pat?
I think that you're somebody that you can probably make a low key investment in who will play up to what you're paying him. So I'm here for re-signing Nwuzurike. I don't think John Kaminsky's back. Like, you have Pascal, who's also contracted. You can also extend him this offseason. Coming off of a knee injury, I think he's probably 30 or close to 30. And like, this is a pretty good interior defensive line draft. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a greater investment, like interior of the defensive line, in the draft for these guys. So I think that it's geez, really, dude. So like, I think Kaminsky's gone, unfortunately. Like, I like John Kaminsky. I don't think he's here. Yeah, basically, I'm with Pat on that one. Yeah, that could very easily be, Brian. Like, I think that a lot of guys like on this roster probably end up wherever Aaron Glenn goes, because he's going to want guys who know the terminology, who are veterans, who can fill spots, you know, and get, quote unquote, what he wants to do up and off the ground. I think that's a really good point. I would re-sign Davenport. Like, you signed him for like $4 million or whatever it was, $7 million, and he got hurt, so he's even cheaper. And it's not the kind of injury that makes you worse as a player. And they want that kind of body type. He's in the building. You know, I think that like you could probably re-sign him for less than you signed him for last year. Great. Then now he's just a body. Keep him around. And then I think you probably draft somebody to play behind or alongside him. Off Hutch. What's Duff? We need to build the defense of Duff. Pat, you're going to have to explain that one to me, buddy. I'm not sure where you're going. But let's see. There was one other guy I wanted to talk. Oh, Ife Melifonwu. I like Ife when he's on the field. Can you tell me when that is?
Every so often. Right.
So, I mean, I just don't. So, like,
I think you re-sign him with a low base and an incentive, escalators.
So, I mean, like, and I'm, if you want to bring him back, and it's like basically like, I don't know if he counts as a veteran yet because he doesn't have 4 years in the NFL accrued, but like, if you want to bring him back super cheap, great. But like, there's a limit where I'm just like, no thanks. We can't do it at that price. And like, this is his time to cash in. It's the second contract stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to be, he's a millionaire. So, like, boo-hoo. But like, this is his opportunity right now to make like a life-changing deal, whether that's $5 million a year, $7 million a year, whatever. Like, this is his opportunity. Guys like Pecco, Chris Smith, Pat O'Connor, I think those guys get re-signed real cheap. We need a better backup on defense. How's that? Okay. Yeah. I agree with you. I think I like my plan, if I was GM, I'm not, just FYI, spoiler alert, would be you go into this year with two things. The primary goal is continue to build another layer of depth, primarily on the defense, some offensive line. And so everyone's in my ear now, dude, now that you started that conversation. So
Sorry.
I do think the secondary needs depth, turnover. I disagreed pretty vehemently. Somebody said we need a linebacker centered defense. Yeah, I disagree with that entirely.
No, I think he was saying that we would, if Shep becomes DC, he thinks that we're going to switch to more a linebacker focused defense because that's what he was, right? He was the linebacker coach.
Yeah, I hate that idea.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not that it's a bad. I mean, like nothing against you, Brian. But I mean, is there a linebacker focused defense in the NFL that you can point to be like something like this? Because I like Jack Campbell. I mean, and I didn't 2 years ago, but I bet big on him to become a much better player this year. And like, he didn't hit the level that I thought he was going to hit per PFF grade, but like, I did think that he became a different player. But when was the last time that you watched the Lions game and you were like, oh, Campbell came up with a big play there? Because I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember him getting a sack, forcing a fumble, coming up with a huge fourth down stop. Like, he's good.
Interceptions.
He's going to get his 10, 12 tackles a game, and he's going to fly around out there. And, like, I appreciate all that. But, like, he is a dude.
Yeah.
And maybe next year he's a dude that does stuff. But, like, Anzalone, for as much as I have not liked Anzalone, because I'm just anti-linebacker, but, like, he's tackles for
he's
loss.
Made plays.
Like, diagnosing plays, like getting in and like making himself like his present felt. And like, is he able to do that because Jack's doing his job? That's the question I can't answer. But like, I know that if it's going to be a linebacker focused defense, you had better have the best 3 fucking linebackers in the NFL on your team, because you're just not accomplishing the 2 things that every defense in the NFL wants to do, which is to pressure the quarterback and cover well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, if this was the Ravens 2000 defense, I'm here for you, bro. But, like...
Yeah. And the NFL's 2000 offense.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, and that's the more important thing, is that, like, linebacker is the position that has been cannibalized by defenses in the NFL. Now, more than ever, there's less than 3 of them on the field. Now, Detroit is in their base defense more than most other teams. They run a traditional 4-3 under Aaron Glenn, and they are in their base defense a lot. They have 3 real linebackers, not a hidden edge rusher, on the field a lot. So as close as you want to get to like an old school defense, that's what you had this year. And like the defense, for as much as I thought everybody played hard and did their roles, I see. Okay, my bad. So for what they were trying to do, they're simply not good enough. And like, I think I don't know that there's such a thing as an elite defense in the NFL anymore. But like, if you can get close enough to whatever that version of a defense is, I think it starts on the defensive line. And like the next most important thing is your ability to cover. And I think the third most important thing is like, how versatile are you? Can you be in different looks with the same personnel? And just linebackers to me just never factor into that. So like, if I've ranted on something that you didn't mean, I apologize. So I'm not re-signing Ife Melifonwu. So like my plan for this year, build another layer of depth, especially on defense, and let enough people leave who are unrestricted free agents to start generating compensatory picks. You don't have to get top compensatory picks, but pick up a 6th round pick. Pick up a 7th round pick. You can trade.
If Carlton Davis signs for what he is wanting, that's probably going to be closer to a 3rd round pick.
So, I've brushed up on the formula, and we can address it some other time. Here's the thing that I think that is the crux of people not understanding how compensatory picks are awarded, and it's the canceling each other out factor. It's the proton, anti-proton, 2 waves cancel each other out type of thing. And so, like, real quickly, the way that it works is compensatory picks emerge out of unrestricted free agents. So the Lions have a chunk of unrestricted free agents. There's a lot of them on this little ticker that Mike has set up for us so nicely. If those guys go out and sign contracts, step one, you look at what they're being paid average per year. Then you subtract out any incentives that they are likely to earn to lower the APY. Then, once you have your adjusted APY, you rank every unrestricted free agent who was signed to a different team in the entire NFL. And then they fall into what round they would have a compensatory pick be awarded. So, like, let's use Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis goes out. He signs a $19 million contract a year. The Lions sign no unrestricted free agents. They only re-sign their own guys and players who were cut, and they go into the draft. Carlton Davis now ranks as a compensatory, what they call a CFA, compensatory free agent, who is in the lost category. Your team lost that player. He went to another team who's giving him money. You could have signed him. You chose not to. So then, once you have the list of all of your CFAs who you lost, you compare that to the list of CFAs that you gained by signing them. And there is a relatively complex series of canceling each other out. And it is very difficult to A, generate picks at all, or B, have those picks not be canceled out by some worthless fucking third stringer that you managed to pick up. So not every unrestricted free agent counts as a compensatory free agent. You have other criteria that you have to hit. And if the Lions go out and sign guys, which they have not been prone to do, like they like the value 1 year, prove it, bring the veteran in kind of move. But those guys, if they count as like compensatory free agents that you've brought in, start canceling out your Carlton Davises. And you can have a dude under certain circumstances who is a 5th round CFA gained cancel out Carlton Davis if he's a 3rd round pick that you lost. So it's very complex as to who you can sign and who they cancel
and
out.
Maintain your comp picks, right?
So you basically, if you want to generate comp picks, you need to have a lot more players leave than the ones that you bring in. So the Lions have guys here and a lot more like on the exclusive free agents, restricted free agents, street free agents that could sign with other teams. Like James Mitchell, our 4th string tight end, signed with the Panthers today. The Lions signed Ronnie Bell, who was a wide receiver with the 49ers, to a futures contract. He's going to be a practice squad player for us next year. And Brian brings up a really good point. That's why Brad normally only signs guys who have been cut. If you sign guys who have been cut, and this is what Brian's getting at, they don't count towards the canceling out effect because they're not unrestricted free agents. They were cut. So, like, if the Lions want to generate compensatory picks, let your unrestricteds walk out the door. Do not sign unrestricteds coming in the door. That's the best way to do it. So, hey, Michael. So that's my hope, is that the Lions, after it's all said and done, can sign a number of players or have a number of players leave the roster that generate enough value to actually earn some kind of compensatory picks. And then I want to see them be able to start rolling that over year to year. It'll keep the cap fresh. It'll give Brad more chances to hit big on top 100 players, or give him more flexibility in the draft because he'll have more capital to spend. We have too much cap space. Yeah. They do not have that much cap. They do not have too much cap space.
Is there such thing as too much cap space?
Well, so I don't think that there is. And my reasoning is that like you have to spend so much to hit the floor minimum, right? So the Lions are fine there. But the Lions want to roll into each year with something like $40 million in cap space, which will put you in the top 10 almost any year that you're in the ranking available cap space. And the reason that they want that much is because they look at their practice squad as an extension of the actual roster, and they will make elevations throughout the year. The Lions will roll into most weeks with 52 or 51 players on their active roster, and they will use their cap space to elevate practice squad guys for injuries, for matchup purposes, who knows. So we have $38 million coming off of dead money. The only guy we have dead money going out right now on next year's is Cam Sutton. They have $52 million coming off of injured reserve. They have plenty of cap space, especially for based on how Brad spends traditionally in free agency. So you can roll your cap space over from year to year. So it's not like you're going to lose a ton of room. You're not going to
use it on Aiden.
Right. And that's the other thing, is that you will eventually, if this is, the cap is here, your floor is here, every year the cap goes up a little bit. Well, okay. You're going to sign Aiden. You're going to sign Kirby Joseph, Penny, Amon-Ra, Goff. Those things, that floor is going to get closer to that ceiling the more that they re-sign their guys. And then, of course, at some point, they are going to have the big cap hit years hit. And they'll either need to restructure those guys to make cap space and spread out the hit. That's a lot. That's very popular. But I think that they can start doing I don't need them to get six comp picks. I don't need them all to be third round comp picks. But I think that you can start generating some amount of roster turnover by being selective about who you want to re-sign. I don't think there's an impetus to bring Ife Melifonwu, John Kaminsky, Carlton Davis back to this roster. And you have an opportunity right now with two coordinators leaving, that some of these guys are just going to go and play for the guys that they know. Right. So it's entirely possible that multiple players that on defense go to wherever Aaron Glenn signs. Multiple players go and sign in Chicago, and not for huge money, but let's see who would make this list here. Carlton Davis might have a chance. Onwuzurike might have a chance. Dorsey and Vilder might have a chance to hit the you played enough percentage of the snaps.
Yeah.
Outside of that, this group may not be perfect, but there's a couple of gems there, and I
got one for you, Drew.
Go ahead.
Kirby Joseph.
So that's an interesting question, because I've been wondering about this. Kirby Joseph had 2 average years, and then he became one of the best safeties in the NFL.
Yep.
So Brad has not shown yet that he's willing to let one of his draft picks walk.
Especially a good one.
Right. So Derek Barnes was eligible for an extension last year. They didn't do it. Kirby Joseph is eligible for an extension once the new league year starts. Will they do it? If I'm Kirby Joseph's agent, I'm going to look at him being an all-pro and PFF ranking him as one of the top 3 safeties.
Yep.
Well, that's fine, and they may not, Michael, but what I'm saying is that there's no harm in allowing some of these guys to leave the roster, because the roster is in such good shape that their first round pick might just be for depth this year, or a project guy, as opposed to a starter somewhere on the defense. Their second round pick last year is a backup. So I challenge somebody to find a spot on this roster right now where they're we need to draft a starter for this position, because I don't see one. And if they
left
don't
guard,
but here's the thing. It's so he underperformed, right? So I would say Christian Mahogany is your left guard.
Yeah.
So
especially if Zeitler comes back, right?
Exactly. So plus Coyote Owashika, who's been a guard that they've elevated multiple times over multiple years. He is a restricted free agent. Those are almost overwhelmingly back on the same roster as our Shane Zylstra, as our Craig Reynolds. So I just don't see where there's an opportunity for rookies to start or get a ton of meaningful snaps.
Yep. And just
so
on the Kirby Joseph, he is the number 1 ranked PFF player at safety. Now, granted, I did filter it. There was one dude that played 3 games and a handful of snaps, but I just filter out the ones that weren't playing enough meaningful snaps. But Yeah, that's him, and he is up there at third most snaps in the NFL. So like he was really really good for a lot of snaps, throughout that season. So yeah, go Kirby.
Hood's really interesting. Poor guy. Plays in Carolina. Tackle 3 is definitely a need that I want to address this offseason. Who do you see as tackle 3 on this team, Michael? Because if it's Dan Skipper, you have Giovanni Manu ready to take a spot. So
even Skipper, he is a fan favorite, I think mostly because of the Dallas game. Sure. And then we got the touchdown this year, but he didn't. I mean, he performed very much like a backup. He's not starting level tackle. Yeah, I would say Skipper's like a tackle 5. Yeah, he is.
That's really interesting because I don't know what tackle you're bringing in that's already not on the field as much as Dan Skipper. So here are the tackles that I think are just on the roster. I don't trust Manu to come in at left tackle if Decker needs the game off. Well, he wouldn't be. It would probably be Graham Glasgow, who, when Decker got hurt in a game this year, played snaps at left tackle. And like when Skipper played left tackle, he wasn't good. And like they traded a future year's pick in order to draft Manu. So you have to let the guy see the field at some point. Otherwise, the whole pick was wasted. And like he's 6'8", 355. And everything that I've heard from like the coaching staff and the beat writers is that like this guy is absorbing coaching at a rate that they've rarely seen. Like I would come to Jesus on this because I think that Giovanni Manu is probably the next tackle to come into the game, especially like if you want the 6th offensive lineman. But like there's no team in the NFL that has a good plan to replace your starting left tackle. So, I mean, they're just going to have to make...
And there's a lot of teams out there that need to.
Right. Like, I think the plan for Manu is to be, like, you're the new Dan Skipper this year. Now you've seen snaps on the field. Now you're getting snaps on special teams. And then, like, as Decker goes through his extension, you are evaluating whether or not he has learned enough, developed enough to basically be able to replace Taylor Decker when he's ready. He's like, he has no more guaranteed money on his contract. So... I could be wrong. Like just having Giovanni Manu on the roster doesn't mean that if you have like the 3rd tackle in this year's class fall into your lap when he was supposed to go at 12 or something, you don't take that guy. Or like here's a really popular thing I'm seeing in mock drafts right now is Cameron Williams, the tackle for Texas. He's enormous, but he is super raw. Like if he is sitting there at 28 and the Lions feel like, quote unquote, that's my ball of clay, I can mold that dude. Like, that might be the next Taylor Decker. But like they've already taken one stab at a ball of clay, and that's Giovanni Manu. And like, yeah, I mean, certainly they could draft it. They could draft another player there. I just think that they've quote unquote already made that play. So, I feel the same way about Broderick Martin. He's seen the field more than Manu has, and it's not good yet. So, I mean, like like one of the things that I've been doing a lot in mock drafts now that we know what our pick is basically saying like, if Kenneth Grant, who's like the number 1 rated nose tackle in this class, is sitting there at 28, I would take Kenneth Grant to basically play behind DJ Reader for 1 year until Reader's contract's up. And then I would have that succession plan in place to keep the defensive line young and cheap. So, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I think that...
well, it looks like you got something queued up for us.
I was just looking at blocking grades for the Lions for tackles. So just looking at our depth. Giovanni Manu didn't make the snap count list. So I'm like, Jamarco Jones, I don't even remember this person, but apparently he played in 2 games and got 4 whole snaps. So
he is a practice squatter that they had as an elevation when Decker was hurt, who got into the game because Skipper tweaked a ankle or something near the end of the game. So, and that's what it is. It's like Brad is going to stock the practice squad with 1 or 2 projects. Like Connor Galvin is. Oh, you yelling at me here? Yeah.
What, me?
Connor Galvin is still on this roster. He is a young tackle. Colby Sorsdal is still on this roster. He is a young tackle. Giovanni Manu, like these are guys that they are investing in who are low draft picks.
Yep.
Like the biggest
low cost also, right?
Right,
Like from a salary perspective.
But the largest investment that these guys have, like the Lions have made in any kind of tackle that's not a starter is in Giovanni Manu. So right now he is the front runner. And like Dan Campbell is nothing, or not Dan Campbell, Dan Skipper is nothing special. Like he's just an enormous human being. Manu is bigger. I think. I mean, like I know Skipper's 6'9", 3 something, but like Manu
6'9",
is
317.
Yeah, so like Manu has like 35 pounds on him, and he's the same size. So I mean, I think the succession plan is pretty straightforward. Now, like I also argued that like if Tyler Guyton fell into their laps last year, like they should take him, and have him be like, but they hadn't signed Taylor Decker to an extension yet. So, I mean,
And Manu, by the way, is 6'7", so he's a little bit shorter, but 354.
Yeah. So he's enormous. So,
yeah.
And I think it would not take much for Manu to get into a game and make some crazy athletic play or blow some 190-pound safety up because he's 3 times his size. And someone to be like, ooh, so, but that's exact. I mean, like, I think this is a good point. Like, but they said they saw him as a 2 to 3 year project. Well, yeah. So, I mean,
next year's year 2, right?
So next year's year 2. And like, if the guy doesn't see the field until year 3, like, I think that you're way behind schedule. So, I mean, like Skipper's contract's up. These guys have the same athletic profile. Like Skipper only played like 300 snaps this year. Like that seems like a great, like, I'm gonna, here
transition, right?
Here comes the airplane, like we're gonna baby spoon feed you, some experience, and then see where you are like in another off season, that kind of stuff. Like it just, but we'll see what Brad does, So Brad's probably got us all tricked.
Yeah, as always. Well, I'm looking forward to our annual draft live draft party. Just to see what happens. There's going to be a lot of mock drafts between now and then. So I'm here for it. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I'm going to do a mock draft. But if you want to jump off, I would understand.
I do have to bounce. So you have a great draft. Appreciate everybody. This was always good. I wish it was a win. I wish we could be talking about the Lions next game. Our next game is not going to be till the fall, which is a real bummer. But they did save me $10,000 in buying Super Bowl tickets. So maybe I should send a thank you note. But appreciate you guys. Talk to you later.
See you, Mike.
Bye.
All right, we'll do a quick mock draft here. Let me see if I can share my screen. Present, share screen. That's what I want. Window right here, share. Come back to this screen. Add it to the stage. This is riveting. Go back to the screen. Make it a little bit bigger. All right, so the Lions are picking right here at 28. We'll do a quick 7-rounder. I hope Donkey Kong is still here. If he is, you're a real trooper, dude. But let's jump into it. So start draft. So I kind of expect that the Lions are going to use their picks in order to quote unquote target their guys, right? So last year they only had 14 players with a first round grade, on them. And I think that like Terry Nard was probably at the bottom of that list. And they traded up to get him, right? Because they wanted to make sure they got one of their guys. So we have some interesting choices here. I would not be opposed to trading down, right? So if the Bills here wanted to move up a couple spots, they want to jump Washington, I would be here. I would be down to listen to what they want to do. They probably want Membo. Let's see. In my opinion, they don't need a tackle. They don't need a tight end. I'm not taking a linebacker in the first round. Let's see. So that leaves like Tyleek Williams. So he's a 3-tech. So that's McNeil's position. But Wingo is hurt, and Wuzurike is a free agent. So if you wanted somebody like Tyleek Williams, he is 6'3", 327. So that's right in line with like the size, weight, speed combination. He is a run defender. So he played the run exceptionally well. Run stop rate is excellent. Not much of a pass rusher. So if he's a 3 technique, which is where he plays, in the B gap and over the tackle, he is, in my opinion, not what the Lions are looking for in a 3-tech. He is what they are looking for in a nose tackle. So can this guy effectively be the future backup to, or the backup to DJ Reader, and eventually replace him on the roster? But we do have a couple of corners here in Siobhan Revel, who had a really great year before he tore his knee, and Trey Amos. And Revel is more of a zone corner, and I believe Amos is pretty much both. He is a 77 zone grade, 76 man grade. He is 6'1", 190, so I think that's probably kind of in line with what the height, weight, speed profile is for the Lions corners. I'm going to jump back into the chat here and see what you guys are saying. Nobody's saying anything. So I am going to take Trey Amos. We'll see, right? Depth at corner. Maybe Rakestraw's not ready. I could also see like Landon Jackson as a popular pick. Princely how do you say his name? Uman Malian, something like that, would be another popular edge rusher pick. I like Jackson better than I like Princely. But let's just take, for something different, let's just take Trey Amos. So once again, I don't think there is a starter level position available on the Lions roster. So every pick that I'm making in this draft is a quote unquote draft and stash kind of guy. Okay, so this is what I would consider to be what Michael was talking about in chat, is now we have an actual tackle on the board in Cameron Williams. So this guy is enormous. 6'5", 335. Now he's probably not actually that big. He's 21. The Lions play both zone and gap schemes, so you need both of these to be good. His gap grade is not good. Also, he is not good in true pass set pass protection. Now what you want to see. Doesn't have very high scores. He's played 3 games at Texas, 7 games at Texas, 15 games at Texas. So this year was the first year that he saw meaningful games. He's played every snap at Texas at right tackle. So I could easily see this guy being a guard in the NFL. So I don't think that Penei Sewell is ever going to switch positions from right to left tackle. So you have, let's say, you have Christian Mahogany at one guard, and you have Frank Ragnow says that he wants to continue to play. So that's positions locked up for like the near future. Decker is signed. I think that the value here is taking Cameron Williams and basically doing what they are doing with Giovanni Manu. Like, we're going to draft and develop you. And like, I'd rather be like, and I can probably hear people yelling at me. Like, I would rather be a year too early than a year too late when it comes to draft picks. So if I have to draft a guy and sit him for a year, I don't care. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. So now the Lions have a huge gap. They don't have a 3rd round pick. They gave that up for Carlton Davis, I believe. Maybe that's it, or maybe it was part of. I don't know what trade it was a part of, but they don't have a 3rd round pick. So we could get a 3rd round pick if Aaron Glenn is hired as a coach, but we might not. So here we are, pick 131. We have drafted Trey Amos and Cameron Williams. One guy might get some playing time at corner. So now what do we do? PFF says there are needs at center, guard, edge, and linebacker. I do not believe that there are needs at center and linebacker for this team. So I would get used to this guy's name, David Walker from Central Arkansas. He has ridiculous PFF grades. 6'2", 260. So he's more in line with like what we see out of Zadarius Smith than somebody that you see out of like Aiden Hutchinson. But like this guy is playing the Hutch role in the Lions defense, which I assume that they will maintain. But like if he's here he's 106th ranked player consent on their board at pick 131, I'll just take the value at the need position of quote unquote position of need. And we'll just get another effective pass rusher on the roster. Like Zadarius Smith has not played so well that you can't possibly take another edge position guy to like push him, for a for snaps, basically. Let me just do a quick chat. Maybe this is the year that Brad moves down. 28's the perfect spot to move back a few spots. So I like it because there was a mathematical study done 10 years ago called the Loser's Curse. And what it found out was it treated the NFL draft as a marketplace and then analyzed that marketplace. And what it found out was the best value in their estimation in the NFL draft came between picks 25 and 40. So that's the bottom half of the first round through the top half of the second round. And the reason why is that those are still primarily first round talents or guys in that pool who you are paying much less under the terms of the new CBA. So let's see. I really want to take a safety here just for depth behind Branch and Joseph. This is a coverage safety. Hunter Wohler. There's another one. Malachi Moore. I'll take Moore here for fun. Anyways, the Loser's Curse. The study found that in the NFL draft, if you take guys in abundance between picks 25 and 40, you can get an insane value. Like you're basically paying the least amount of money for how much talent you're drafting. And so if the Lions are picking at 28, they're already in that bucket. But I am completely happy to trade down into the top of the second round, pick up another day 2 pick or multiple day 3 picks. You're probably still getting the guy that you were looking for anyways. I'm here for it. There's no way Jackson Dart's here, but if Jackson Dart was on the board at this point, I would just take him. I am going to take... I want to take David Gabenda from Texas. We've already got one Longhorn on the roster. So I will take Brew McCoy because he's 6'3", 230. And I fully expect that the Lions re-sign Tim Patrick to be their wide receiver 3. But like I wouldn't mind seeing another guy drafted. Okay, I'll just take Jackson Dart just to get the A+. But like another guy that you can like develop behind Tim Patrick to possibly be the new Tim Patrick when Tim Patrick's contract extension is up. So I didn't do very well, right, according to PFF. But like Trey Amos, he doesn't match up with what they think the value is. Cam Thomas, there's no need at tackle. We're drafting him as a guard. David Walker, for whatever reason, they gave a D+2, even though edge is one of our needs. Malachi Moore, a backup safety. Brew McCoy, a backup wide receiver. Quarterback, I took for the grade. there's no way that Jackson Dart's here. He might be the fourth quarterback off the board when the draft actually happens. So who knows? I mean, I am here for something like this because I think that this starts to build in multiple layers of depth across the board, right? So we'll do some more like theme specific drafts coming up, and we'll talk about how to figure out who quote unquote the Lions guys are as we move through the off season, which unfortunately the off season is here for us. But that's the show for today, guys. We're right at 2 hours. Seems like a nice time to end it. Michael Lutchies, thanks for carrying us to the end of the show. Good questions, good ideas. Really like seeing that. Pat Rothwell, thanks for stopping by. Brian, Zakwa. Who else do we have stop in? We had other guys. Donkey Kong was here at the beginning. Brian Coates. Of course, Mike, my co-host, was here. Anybody else am I forgetting here? Don Burr was here, offered some positive comments. Always love to see that. So thanks a lot, guys. And I know that the season didn't end the way we wanted to, but great season all around anyways. Best in team history. And now we'll see where the coordinators end up. All right. One pride, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.